And joining us now, BASF and the SCN Coalition partnering up for the fourth annual SCN Action Month. And we want to talk about that and just talk about soybean cyst nematode in general. It's such a huge yield robber that growers across the country need to be aware of. Let's talk about SCN and SCN Action Month right now. Joining us for a conversation, Seed Treatment Product Manager with BASF, Jeremiah Mullock, is with us here today. Jeremiah, thank you for being on the program with us. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk just in general. Obviously, the partnership here between BASF and the SCN Coalition really kind of highlighting SCN Action Month. It kicked off on October 1st with National Nematode Day, and then throughout the month of October, really highlighting and trying to raise awareness about the impacts of SCN, right, Jeremiah?
That's exactly right. I mean, we have a great partnership opportunity to, with the SCN Coalition to increase awareness to this largest pest in soybeans. We often say it's the largest pest, but we'll never see the above ground symptoms. So it's often invisible. So this is really a time to really encourage our growers and farmers to get out there and proactively manage this invisible pest that we know causes over $1.5 billion of annual yield revenue loss.
Let's talk about some of the different things they can do to proactively manage. And I know right away off the top, I would think one of the best things you can do, especially as we wrap up harvest season here this year, is get out and soil sample, right?
Exactly right. So that's why October is such a great time to think about action and taking action really against SCN is going out and collecting a soil sample, getting those diagnostics of what your population. It's kind of hard to fight a fight if you don't know what you're fighting. So you really get those populations in there, and then there's some great resources available from the SCN Coalition, the SCN Profit Checker. You can go in and kind of plug those numbers in of what you get as a population that really put it into economic numbers of what kind of yield loss are you losing, whether it be, are you losing 5% yield loss, are you losing 10%, and really put that in dollars and cents to your farm.
Well, and I think about, soil sampling and soil testing is one key piece. But then too, as we wrap up harvest, we're going to be thinking about next year, Jeremiah. So what are some things as we look at 2025 that we can potentially do to help mitigate the spread of SCN? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, all management for SCN occurs before you put the seed in the ground. So it's building that plan out, whether it's using resistant varieties, whether it be it containing 88788 source of resistance or a Peking source of resistance, using crop rotation where that's an effective strategy to kind of bring those populations down to a non-host crop like corn, and even incorporating a nematicide seed treatment like Olivo, really, adding in additional yield loss where we know if left unchecked, that SCN is causing, up to 5 bushels yield loss per acre.
I think about this when you mentioned seed treatments, or we think about crop rotation or different varieties that have resistance. It's almost like you kind of need multiple modes of action to help really fight SCN, because to me, everything I understand, it's something that probably not going to go away very easily in fields across the U.S.
Yeah, there's no eradication for SCN. So it's a year-on-year fight, and it's all about using every tool available, right? We don't want to not use something. So use all the tools available, really integrated all those management modes of actions that are available, thinking native traits and a seed treatment chemistry, like, adding in early season efficacy and performance, and, thinking of the relationship that SCN also has with other pathogens and diseases like sudden death syndrome, where we know they cause each other to be worse. And then, pairing with those resistant native traits that still have season-long activity, but we know those are failing over time as SCN is becoming resistant to those genes.
I think about this too, and just to kind of hammer home your original point here about some of the cost perspective and the revenue loss that can be seen here from SCN. I heard from a grower recently in Iowa who, throughout the growing season, his soybeans looked fantastic, but then, kind of that hidden pest lost a lot of yield because he had active SCN populations throughout his field. So even, on the surface, the crop might look good, but underneath, it's kind of that hidden yield robber that, again, could take away such an amount of yield and revenue loss for your operation, right, Jeremiah?
That's exactly right. You'll often never see above ground symptoms, to SCN, and when you do, that's a train wreck. I mean, that's a disaster. It's really almost a death by a thousand paper cuts. You have paper cuts, excuse me, where you have those below ground losses occurring, and often it's a slow drag. Often you see your yields plateau, or you're not kind of maximizing kind of where you think your yield potential to be. I would encourage people to go out and pull a soil sample and kind of get a gut check. How bad is the problem that I don't think I have, or currently don't know that I have?
Absolutely. Well, I know you mentioned the profit checker earlier. Folks can go to the scncoalition.com, the scncoalition.com for more info on that. And I know as well, folks can go to the BASF website, Jeremiah, talk with their local retailer, their local agronomist and specialist and more from BASF if they have questions and concerns about SCN or any other disease, weed pressure, et cetera, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we have scnfields.com. So that's kind of, an awareness map, where we've, over the last couple of years, we've collected over 6,000 samples and we've visualized those samples. So you can see, over 80% of those samples we've collected have had SCN. It's widespread and out there. So kind of helping this overall awareness message, and definitely reach out to your local BSF representative to learn more about SCN or learn about how to manage this problem the best way possible.
Absolutely. Anything final you would share or reiterate to growers listening in today as we continue to fight against SCN in our fields?
It's all about active management, using all those tools in the toolbox. This is the time. If you've not tested or evaluated what your SCN populations are, go out there and plan and make sure you're not leaving hidden yield loss for the 2025 season.
With that, seed treatment product manager for BASF, Jeremiah Mullock, joining us here today to talk about soybean cyst nematode and SCN Action Month. Jeremiah, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.